been creating art ever since I can remember. It's something that I've always done, whether it's as an illustrator, whether it's, I'm a professor, I teach at the College for Creative Studies. All these different sides to me, I think you can find in my work in one way or another. When I was living out west, I drove out to the middle of nowhere in Wyoming and bought a press. I love wood type, I love typography and everything associated with that, but I was really approaching it from the idea of how can I reproduce an image in a way that would be unique and have potentially more than one original. The block itself and the printed object. In many cases, we don't have examples, for example, of easel paintings from the Roman period, but we have examples of relief carving, of relief sculpture. And there's a background in printmaking and relief printing and illustration, and that's where that was my entry point into this art form, but I like the physicality of it as well. I feel that I either make it work when I carve it in one block, or it doesn't work at all. And I think it can be very unforgiving, but yet it's very versatile as well. Looking at all these different ways in which I could make a print, I figured, why not do a carving on a rolling pin? Why not try a pair of shoes? I'm using my body as the press, for example. My background, I'm Mormon, and I feel that I've tried to take and put a little bit of that into my work in a way that wasn't necessarily so obvious at first glance. For example, I was a Mormon missionary in Ukraine, and I have a deep love for Ukrainian culture, for Russian culture, and there's elements of that culture that you'll find in my work, especially in my larger woodcuts that depict, it's the epic of Yuri Gagarin. Yuri Gagarin being the first person in space, the idea of the spacesuit and this self-contained little universe that you're traveling in and going through, space and time in, and I thought that was it was very analogous to what we travel through in this life. It's, you have this self-contained little universe that you experience things with, the sense of the body, which is very central to my faith. The idea of the soul and the spirit combined with the physical body, that's very central to a lot of the teachings, for example, in my faith. The Little Caesars Arena murals came about through a friend of mine who I know pretty well, is an art director at Little Caesars or Olympia Entertainment, and he contacted me after viewing some of my personal work that I was posting on Instagram. I was posting do a lot of sketchbook painting, and I was just doing a lot of things just for the fun of it, posting it. He saw that, and he proposed this idea to his bosses of taking the north-facing wall of the arena and having it be paintings of Detroit sports legends and Detroit music legends, and asked me if I would be interested, and I really was honored that he asked, because it was really me doing what I love to do. When I'm not carving away, I love to paint. I do see what I'm creating as being part of the resurgence of analog culture, of like a hand-wound watch or a fountain pen or a pair of boots that coal miners might have worn in 1910. I think there's a time-tested quality to these objects, and to printmaking in particular. You go to a museum and a lot of the work that you see that's thousands of years old, we know that wood will last. We know that it's going to be around hundreds, if not thousands of years from now, because we have evidence of it in major museums across the world. And that's what attracted me to woodcut, is the idea that if I'm really taking my time with my choice of substrate, and I'm really taking my time with that, I can create something that hopefully is going to be here long after I'm gone. I guess maybe that's not the hope for everyone, but that's one of the hopes I have as an artist, is that something of me lives on long after I'm gone. And I feel that we know with these time-tested technologies that they're going to be here. And again, there's just a satisfaction to putting a needle to a record, to an old-fashioned Zippo lighter. The physicality of that and the satisfaction of having that as part of your ritual of what you do as a human being, I think is great. And being able to pass that on to a younger generation is really, I think, a critical part of what I do in my practice. Is I want those younger than me to take and find that same satisfaction, so that I can have that insurance policy, if you will, that it's going to be around. I don't think it's interesting if everything is, if everybody's tapping on glass all the time. I think it's great. But I think it's not as satisfying. I think there's a whole other level of existence as a human being. It's really taking the time with things and slowing down and enjoying the moment and actually, being able to rub your hands or feel the relief on a sculpture or that tactile quality. It's just, how can you get that quality and pass that on as an artist is what I'm trying to do ultimately.